Good morning. Today, the last Wednesday in the week, and also the last week in the month of September, we have another session with you, and we thank God who has brought us this far in the year. It has been quite a challenging year for many of us. Nonetheless, we continue to thank our higher power who has made it possible for us to be where we are today. I guess it could have been worse. 2 days ago, many of us joined our Jewish brothers and sisters to mark and celebrate the Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Something significant in their relationship with God. A day when they confess their sins, acknowledge their sins, and they seek pardon. Because one thing sin does in our lives is that it disrupts the flow of grace, the connection we have with our higher power. So the Jews understand that. And the story of this, the Day of Atonement, goes to biblical history when they were sojourning in the desert. And the Lord called Moses up to the Mount of Sinai. And as Moses spent time with the Lord, communing with God, the Lord who was to give him at the time the Torah, the Ten Commandments, which was written in the tablet. While Moses was away, the urge for divine relationship was so much among the people of God, the Israelite people. They needed to worship, they needed to celebrate, but they got it wrong. They brought out their golds and silver and precious metals and molded a golden calf and started worshiping this calf as if he were the God that brought them out from the slavery in the land of Egypt. So when Moses came down and saw the atrocity, the abomination they have brought upon themselves, he was so mad, and out of annoyance broke down the calf, and in the process broke the tablets of the Ten Commandments. Moses had to go back again up to the mountain to plead on their behalf before God. And the people acknowledged their sins, and that instituted the Day of Atonement. From that time onwards, the people of Israel have continued to recognize, to acknowledge their sins, because we are all vulnerable to sinning before God. So we join them in spirit as believers in the higher power, in also our understanding as people of God who offend God when we offend our neighbors, who offend God directly and indirectly, to seek pardon for our sins. Because God, our God, is a God of justice. In the book of the prophet Ezekiel chapter 18, it says, the soul that sins shall die. And there is individual accountability and responsibility towards the things we do. We are going to give account of them before our higher power. One thing I have also realized over the years is that it is easier to offend our people around us, strangers, aliens, those we do not know, our friends, our family, our colleagues, because of lack of charity, because of our own selfishness, because of our own pride. they come in the way in our relationship with one another. And we may be forgetting that when we offend our brothers and sisters, we are also offending God. So that leads me to reflect with you today from our classic theologian, our spiritual guide, Howard Thurman. Friends whom I knew not. They could be strangers, they could be aliens. Again and again, because no man is an island, it can be very lonely to have no friend, to have no one to talk to, no one to confide in, no one to call my friend. It is also possible that you may have a lot of acquaintances, well-wishers, admirers, but you don't have no friend. And it is also possible that some of us are gifted with good friends. The friendship we cultivate, the friendship we sustain, they help us through life's journey. They may be the voice that informs us again and again of our shortcomings. I'll read some parts of Howard Thurman's text, Friends Whom I Knew Not, and then we take the reflection from there. And he begins with these beautiful words: Thou hast made known to me friends whom I knew not. Thou hast brought a distant near and made a brother of the stranger. Who is the thou who has made this possible? Maybe let us join him and reflect alongside with him. And like I said, I'll just choose a few parts of the paragraphs and then go further from there. The strength of the personal life is often found in the depth and intensity of its isolation. The fight for selfhood is unending. There is the ever-present need to stand alone, unsupported and unchallenged. To be sure of oneself, to be counted for oneself as oneself, is to experience aliveness in its most exciting dimension. He's talking about the self feeling very much content and seeing his or her aliveness in that part where he finds freedom of the spirit. If there is a job of work to be done that is impossible, if there is a need to be met that is limitless, if there is a word to be said that can never be said, the spirit of the whole man is mustered, and in the exhaustive effort, he finds himself in the solitariness of strength renewed and courage regained. Below the surface of all the activity and functioning in which life engages us, there is a level of disengagement when the individual is a private actor on a lonely stage. It is here that things are seen without their outer garbs. The seedlings of desires take quiet root. The bitter waters and the sweet springs find their beginnings. The tiny stirrings that become the raging tempests are seen to shimmer in the semi-darkness that is called the region, the place, the clime, where man, in his lonely and solitary guest, is in the vast empty house of the world. But this is not all of a man's life. This is not the full and solid picture. The strands of life cannot be so divided that each can be traced to a separate source. There is no mind there is no dying. When there is that which I will claim as my very own, a second look, a subtle strangeness, something announces that there can never be anything that is my very own. Always moving in upon a man's life is a friend whose existence he did not know, whose coming and going is not his to determine. The journeyings take many forms. Sometimes it is in the vista that opens before his mind because of lines written long before in an age he did not know. Sometimes it is in a simple encounter along the way, when before his eyes the unknown stranger becomes the share of tidings that could be borne only by a friend. Sometimes a deep racial memory throws into focus an ancient wisdom that steadies the hand and stabilizes the heart. Always moving upon a man's life is a friend whose existence he did not know, whose coming and going is not his to determine. At last, a man's life is his own very self, and a man's life is never his. Our life are never ours alone. If I continue to read, there is so much he has written here that we can reflect on. The joy of being alone, the aliveness we create within the self, still does not complete our life works, our purpose in life. And as we journey through life, we may come across someone who becomes a friend. The stranger becomes a friend. His words help us to heal. His hands help us to be encouraged. The pat on the back gives us strength. When I think of this, I can imagine how lonely life can be if you are walking alone in this world. There is some kind of support we get if we are open to friendship. There is some sense of belonging we have when we are part of a family, when we are accommodated in spite of our weaknesses. So who is a friend? The one who is identified in isolation. Acquaintances, well-wishers, colleagues, classmates, members of the same club or fraternity. Someone calls it the person we find in this whole group, the one we isolate from the others because of what we create and what we find, and because of the connection we make. Someone calls it found in the depth and intensity of its isolation. That person that is found in that depth and intensity of the isolation, they isolate him or her from the rest. Whatever that isolation may be, suffering, being in need, imprisoned, hospitalized, abandoned, homeless, grieving, bereaved. In all of these different circumstances of life, we find our solitude, we find our solitariness, and we search for solidarity. When somebody loses a loved one, it seems the world has closed in on him or her. It could be a beloved parent, father or mother. It could be a beloved son or daughter. It could be a beloved spouse. It could also be a beloved friend. At that time, the coldness of the world brings the chill in you, even though you are in the midst of many. You feel very lonely. So the friend I know, is it the friend I have? The friend I have, is he or she the friend I know? There may be an invitation to identify these two. The friend I know may likely be different from the friend I have. The friend I know is John Doe, XYZ, or ABC. Because he or she is the one I often hang out with. My buddy. But will he or she live up to the expectation if I should have a need? In the wee hours of the morning, or in the face of needed help and support? Is it the one I can pick up the phone by 2 a.m. in the morning and call and say, I need help? And that friend comes and shows at my door. Here we identify the friend I have, the one I can call upon at any time, and he or she will be there for me. This may actually not even be the one I have always hung out with. According to Howard Thurman, at that level of disengagement, when the individual is a private actor on a lonely stage, at that point, we need to recognize who the friend is. When we are lonely actors in a world full of people, when we test the bitter waters and the sweet springs, here man becomes a lonely, solitary guest in the vast empty house of the world. The bitter waters, things that bother us, that stress us out, disappointments in life, shortcomings in life, unfulfilled dreams in life, loss, grief, and then the sweet springs, when we have accomplished something important, when we experience something beautiful, graduation, completion of a program, promotion, a good job opportunity that pays well, that pays the bills, marriage, call it that. Those are the friends I know, and those are the friends I have. But then, the friend I should have is an added interest, which we should look into as well. The friend I should have, one who is my sister's keeper, my brother's keeper. This is how best I can describe him. My brother's keeper is a powerful phrase. Remember what happened between Cain and Abel? When Cain killed Abel and he was asked, where is your brother? He said, am I my brother's keeper? Denial of togetherness, denial of solidarity, denial of care, denial of support. I care less about him, don't ask me after him. That's exactly what Cain replied to the voice of God, who asked him, where is your brother Abel? Because within him, he had committed a serious abomination. My brother's keeper no envy, no jealousy. Your success is his or her success. Your accomplishments are his or her accomplishments. He or she encourages you to move on to the next level. He or she encourages you to the path that leads to healing. He or she acknowledges you, helps you, to support you, even in very difficult times. He spends his time and energy and also his resources to support you. No backbiting, no sellout, no betrayal, no backstabbing, no conspiracy against you. Truth, sometimes bitter, he will tell you. Remember what happened in Julius Caesar? All the stabbings Julius Caesar experienced at the Capitol, none was so hurting like that of Brutus. And when Brutus came, he thought that Brutus was there to support him, to save him, to help him. And Brutus stabbed, put in the long knife into his stomach and held it tight. And the last words of the great Julius Caesar was, "Et tu, Brute, et tu, Brute," which means, "And you also, Brutus. And you also, Brutus. Even you, Brutus, whom I called a friend and a confidant." Support in very strange circumstances. The person who gives us support in very strange circumstances is a friend we should have. Solidarity in pain and solidarity in the experience of loss. The one who lends a hand in a silent presence. Like the Good Samaritan supporting the stranger, the Jew. The silent presence of the Good Samaritan, because the one who was beaten on that road from Jericho to Jerusalem couldn't speak. He was helpless and voiceless. It took the godly mind of the Samaritan to know that he needed some help. And he stopped, not minding the danger, not minding the decoy that happens on that road again and again. He felt the man was real. He felt the man needed some help. He felt he could offer some help. And he stopped his journey and risked his life and bandaged his wound, poured oil on his wound, lifted him onto his own camel, and took him to where he had more help. The story of the Good Samaritan is the story of a friend we should have. Think of the biblical story of this Good Samaritan, and it helps us to think and to be like the Good Samaritan. The friend can be a stranger, like we have seen in the Good Samaritan. The stranger friend. I know we have come to a level, a place today in our world and country where we look at those who don't look like us as being our problem. And we can even insult them and call them names. But we never knew that we were like that at some point. And we never know through whom God can bring us help. The one who has always been there yet remained unnoticed until at such a time when he or she shows up in the rarest of circumstances to lend a helping hand without expecting any material reward. The stranger friend could be today for us the immigrant nurses and doctors who are bearing the brunt of the COVID-19, trying to give us support and help. When we are brought in that stretcher into the hospital, what we only care about is to survive, help, medical help. We don't care whether the nurse or the doctor is from India or from Mexico, from Asia, from Africa. And the doctor or the nurse who is responding is not looking at you because you are black or white or colored. He sees the patient as someone who needs help. So, in the silence of the aloneness, a true mirror of us shines. It shines out as encouragement or some kind of shame for the inglorious actions we have taken, or the glory of the satisfaction for the right choices we have made. In the beauty of solitariness is the voice of truth. Welcome on welcome, we tell ourselves the truth that we have a friend. The joy of friendship. We are created and wired to enjoy friendship because this is a human yearning. It is companionship. We all need one to share with, or to speak with, to relate with. It is not good for us to be alone. No man should be alone, no woman. So we need that companionship. And finally, there's something Paul Howard Thurman says to us. There is no mine, there is no dying. It's not about me. It's not about you. Is there anything we can really claim as our own? We live in a network of relationships. A thread knits us together in ways that are mysterious because we share the common humanity. We breathe, we eat, we see the same way, just that we have different colors. We walk through life to meet people who may be our best, even as we have not been responsible to their coming and showing up, except by the determinate principle of providence. And when they will go, we do not even know. God brings them to us. Always moving upon a man's life is a friend whose existence he doesn't know, whose coming and going is not his to determine. At last, a man's life is his very own, and a man's life is never his alone. We will encounter friends along life pathways. It is important that we become a friend to another, as we would love to have friends come to us. Be a true friend to your neighbor today, to your colleague. Be a true friend to the known and to the unknown. Be a true friend to the stranger and to the alien. Be a true friend because we need our higher power to be friends to us. wish you another beautiful day, and I will see you again this same time next week. For now, it is me, from me to you, Chaplain Martin Edward Ahajunwa. God bless you and have a beautiful day. Thank you.